A modern capital city, once alive with government, business and families, has been rediscovered after spending nearly 3 decades buried under volcanic ash. Buildings, roads, and infrastructure remain eerily preserved. This is not ancient history. This is Plymouth Montserrat, the modern city frozen in 1997. Before we begin, subscribe to Infinity for deep explorations of real-world disasters, lost cities, and the science behind the world's most extreme events. Plymouth was the capital of Montserrat, a small British overseas territory in the Eastern Caribbean. The city was founded in the 1700s and grew into the island's administrative, commercial, and residential center. Before 1995, Plymouth had a population of about 4,000 residents and featured modern amenities, hospitals, schools, banks, government buildings, and an active seaport. The city sat just below the Soufrière Hills volcano, which was considered dormant. No major eruption had occurred in recorded history, and the mountain was not seen as a threat. On July 18, 1995, that changed. A series of small earthquakes signaled volcanic unrest. Within days, steam vents, ash emissions, and phreatic explosions confirmed that magma was rising. Initial evacuations began, but due to the city's importance and the uncertainty of the threat, many residents returned multiple times over the following months. Over the next 2 years, volcanic activity escalated. Lava domes formed and collapsed, releasing pyroclastic flows, fast-moving clouds of hot ash, gas and rock, down the flanks of the volcano. On June 25, 1997, the largest pyroclastic flow of the eruption struck the city directly. The flow reached temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Celsius and traveled at speeds of up to 130 kilometers per hour, 80 miles per hour. Over 19 people were killed in nearby villages, and Plymouth was devastated. Ashfalls buried buildings, infrastructure collapsed, and fires ignited throughout the city. Authorities declared Plymouth permanently uninhabitable. The government of Montserrat was relocated to the island's north, and the exclusion zone was strictly enforced for public safety. From 1997 to 2020, Plymouth remained abandoned. The volcano continued to erupt periodically until 2010, after which activity declined significantly, allowing researchers to return and document what remained. With volcanic activity stabilizing after 2010, volcanologists and urban geologists received permission to re-enter sections of the exclusion zone. Drone technology and remote sensors became key tools in initial assessments. The British Geological Survey (BGS), working in partnership with Montserrat Volcano Observatory (MVO), began documenting the structural condition of Plymouth from both aerial and ground-level perspectives. Researchers found that significant portions of the city remained structurally intact under layers of ash, especially reinforced concrete buildings, which held up better than wooden structures. Streets, traffic signs, utility poles, and vehicles were preserved in position. Many buildings remained accessible, though partially filled with ash or weakened by thermal and seismic stress. Offices contained furniture, paperwork, and in some cases, functioning electronics sealed from moisture and decay due to the dry, compacted ash environment. The level of preservation offered a rare opportunity, a modern urban area affected by a high-intensity pyroclastic flow, with real-time evidence of how contemporary infrastructure responded to volcanic forces. Data collection included laser scanning, LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, and aerial photogrammetry to build 3D reconstructions of the city as it stood both before and after the eruption. Researchers focused on key variables, structural collapse patterns, material performance under heat and weight, and the dispersion of ash across horizontal and vertical surfaces. Public health officials also examined preserved hospitals and clinics to evaluate contamination risks and biodegradation of pharmaceuticals or medical waste under volcanic burial. These findings are now used by disaster management agencies globally to model urban vulnerability in volcanic hazard zones. The Soufrière Hills volcano is an andesitic stratovolcano, known for producing explosive eruptions with pyroclastic flows and ash columns. Its magma is highly viscous, trapping gas and building pressure. The 1995 to 2010 eruption phase included dome growth, dome collapse, and lateral blast events. Pyroclastic flows were the primary destructive force, responsible for obliterating infrastructure. These flows contain gas, ash, and volcanic debris heated beyond 400 degrees Celsius and capable of destroying buildings by both mechanical force and thermal stress. In Plymouth, Reinforced concrete buildings withstood direct hits better than wooden or metal-framed structures, which were often destroyed or burned. Heat deformation of steel infrastructure, such as bridges, streetlights, and vehicle frames, was common. Some asphalt surfaces bubbled and cracked under intense heat. Volcanic ash, composed of pulverized rock and glass particles, settled in dense layers. In some areas, it reached depths of 1.5 meters, 5 feet or more, compressing under its own weight and causing roof collapses. Electrical systems were destroyed by conductive ash particles, which short-circuited transformers and power lines. Telecommunications infrastructure was rendered inoperable. Water contamination occurred as ash infiltrated both surface and groundwater supplies. Pipe systems clogged, and septic systems were damaged beyond repair. Airborne ash also presented severe health hazards. Respiratory protection was required for all personnel entering the zone. High-efficiency particulate air HEPA filters were standard equipment. Overall, Plymouth served as a modern case study in total urban failure due to natural disaster, useful for emergency preparedness models, insurance risk assessment, and urban planning in hazard zones. The destruction of Plymouth reshaped disaster risk planning in volcanic regions worldwide. It provided evidence-based insights into how cities should prepare for high-consequence, low-frequency events. Governments in Japan, Indonesia, Italy, and Latin America studied the Montserrat case to improve evacuation planning, public communication, and zoning around active volcanoes. Urban planners now use GIS-based hazard mapping and simulation models to predict flow paths, ash fallout zones, and safe zones, tools partially refined using Plymouth's post-disaster data. Building codes in volcanic regions have been updated to include ash load roof designs, thermal-resistant construction materials, and contingency planning for power grid failures. The role of volcanology institutes became central. Real-time data sharing, public education, and international collaboration between observatories were emphasized in response frameworks. International aid programs and academic partnerships also evolved. The UN, UK government, and Caribbean Development Bank funded several post-eruption studies and resilience projects. Today, the Montserrat Volcano Observatory remains a leading institution in volcanic monitoring, sharing its data with global networks like the Global Volcano Model, GVM, and IAVCI. Lessons from Plymouth have influenced evacuation protocols for volcanoes like Taal, Philippines, Fuego, Guatemala, and Etna, Italy. While the eruption killed only 19 people, it displaced over 7,000, more than half the island's population. Social impact studies from this displacement informed international disaster recovery policies. Plymouth's case proves that even modern cities with advanced infrastructure can be rendered uninhabitable within minutes, a fact every urban planner in volcanic zones must now acknowledge. As of 2025, Plymouth remains within a restricted exclusion zone governed by Montserrat's Disaster Management Coordination Agency. The city is off-limits to the public, but accessible to authorized researchers. Long-term monitoring of the Soufrière Hills volcano is ongoing. Tilt meters, GPS instruments, gas spectrometers, and remote imaging tools constantly assess changes in volcanic activity. Though major eruptive phases ended in 2010, minor seismic events and gas emissions continue, meaning the volcano is still active. Scientists estimate future eruptions are likely within decades. No plans exist to resettle or rebuild Plymouth. Montserrat's new administrative center is in Braids, a safer area to the island's north, where most of the remaining population lives. The abandoned capital is now used for controlled research, including disaster training simulations, structural degradation studies, and volcanic impact assessments. Some heritage organizations have proposed converting parts of Plymouth into a secure open-air museum. Showcasing modern urban disaster remains for public education, but safety concerns remain a barrier. Aerial mapping of Plymouth continues to reveal new details. In 2023, thermal scans uncovered partially intact underground chambers and storage units sealed by ash and debris. Artifacts recovered are stored under controlled conditions for analysis, including sealed electronics, government records, and preserved personal belongings, offering insights into mid-90s Caribbean urban life. Future volcanic activity could rebury the city entirely, or expose new sections as erosion and lahars alter the terrain. The research window is limited and time-sensitive. Plymouth stands as the only modern capital city in the Western Hemisphere to be completely abandoned due to volcanic activity, and remains one of the world's most unique urban case studies in disaster science. If you found this real-world disaster case study compelling, share this video to help others understand the reality of volcanic risk in the modern world. And don't forget to subscribe to Infinity for more in-depth explorations of cities lost to nature, history, and time.